Yo, 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 what's up, everybody? Thank you for tuning in to yet again another fantastic indie creator interview. It's your Caped Crusader Cody, and we are keeping it geekly with our new friend, Mark Bernal. We're here to break down either them or us and lesser-known comics. Welcome to the stream. How are you doing tonight, Mark?
I'm doing great. Thanks to finally meet you, Cody. I'm
yeah,
really
dude.
to be on here.
It's awesome to finally get a face-to-face and kind of, I always love the first initial like meeting, breaking, kind of breaking that ice and really deep diving things. So before we get into the comic side of things, give us a little bit about who you are and how you got into creating comics as well as lesser known comics too.
Yeah. So Mark Bernal, I accidentally started a comic book company in 2021. And, like most people was like, stuck in quarantine, trying to find a way to pass the time and keep my sanity. So, started working with a bunch of illustrators. I was going to pick one illustrator to work on one comic book. And that's what my wife gave me permission to do,
Mm-hmm.
And I fell in love with multiple illustrators I was working with. Okay, we'll do 3 comic books. That'll be fine. That's not too much, right? And people started coming out of the woodwork and started being like, hey, can I make a comic with you? Can I publish a comic with you? And, a couple months later, I'm on a conference call with 14 creators. And my wife's just like, did you start a comic book company during lockdown? And I was like, it's not the worst thing you could catch me doing, but yes. Did I start it or was I a part of it? The wording, Yeah. So, today we got 20 plus creators, artists, writers, illustrators.
That's awesome.
Are working with us in some sort of capacity. It's been really cool. And, we try to be like the AAA team that you can come here, you can still get a little drunk and play 9 innings, and when the majors come to pick you up, we're going to be the first ones to support you. Digital Lizards of Doom was actually the most recent. They got picked up by a bigger publisher. I'm not sure if I'm allowed to say which one yet, but
that's really exciting though.
It was really exciting. And I was talking to Gabe Valentine, the creator of Digital Lizards of Doom, and we were like, I don't know how we feel about this. And we decided it's like when your hot ex gets married, you're happy for her, but sex is out of the question. So it's a little bit of a drag too.
I mean, that is really cool that you stand behind them and you want them to grow, you know what I mean? To lead, because starting your own publishing label, that's a big endeavor in itself, but I'm sure you grow bonds with these creators, right? Friendships and everything.
Totally. And even some of the folks who were generally, are more in a freelancer client relationship. One of our guys that is actually doing the book that's on Kickstarter right now. He's down in Argentina. We never met face to face. There's a slight bit of a language barrier, but the other day he just started DMing me to check in, see how my family, my kids were doing,
That's nice. That's awesome.
And this is cool, and I forget what I was supposed to be doing that night, but it ended up spending an hour chatting with that guy, So
because there's the business relationship side of things, which, it's for me as a consumer, it would be hard for me to go in here and be like, okay, well, are you interested in talking to me because I'm paying you? But when they spend time to ask about your family and such, that's them actually caring. And that has to be a nice sort of feeling of validation, right?
Yeah, totally. And, that's one of the things that kind of centers around the ethos of lesser known comics. And we say treating artists like humans and stuff like that. And what that really means is there's no deadline that's more important than people's physical and mental health, or if someone gets a cool opportunity to go make a comic, with a bigger publisher or something like that, put that priority first. We're all here to support each other, and that's been cool to see. And I think one of the other things we talk about in our creator meetings and huddles is I don't really care about how one book's doing in particular. If we're not helping the people to the right and left of us, then that's not, that's the business we want to have, where it's regardless of where I fall in the pecking order, right? It's just, I feel like I'm supported to the people right and left of me.
Well, you're only as strong as your weakest link, right?
Yeah, and even the term weakest link, right? People when you release books, some are successful, some are
Hmm.
unsuccessful, for totally different and arbitrary reasons. It could just be you launched on the wrong month because a bunch of
Yeah,
bad
yeah.
stuff was coming out that month, or somebody just caught what was trending at that point. They had the right book at the right time with the right art, and they caught the right people's eyes.
Hmm.
It's dumb luck. Most life is dumb luck.
Yeah.
Happy that we're all like where we are today is most of it. It's dumb luck. There's hard work in there, but a lot of hardworking people out there who haven't made the strides that some have made.
So what does lesser known comics do? If you'd like to go ahead and give a little bit of a shout out to that too. I mean, I know we've talked a little bit about some of the creators, but like overall, I mean, what's your guys' mission statement?
Yeah, mission statement is to make dope comics and get as many people to read them as possible. And what that started with was I have like the lesser known universe. So we have all these books that have stories based on characters that I've created. So illustrators can come in and they can work with me, and I'll put the story together, and we'll make a book together. That's one half of it. And then folks like Chris Wigan, who has Tights, or Ray Garza, who did Tank McGregor. They came with a finished book and they said, "Can I publish this with lesser known comics?" So in essence, they're just borrowing the megaphone at that point. So it's really one of those two, and then sometimes it ends up blending, because the creator of Tank McGregor, we were just on the phone call this morning about doing this basically Point Break, but with skateboards. This like this kind of like 80s homage, like action movie.
That sounds awesome though.
Yeah. So he's working on his own stuff that's completely independent of me. But when you surround yourself with people that you get along with and you're having a good time, then you end up starting to collaborate on more and more things.
So you started to take a crack at writing as well, if I'm not mistaken, right? So give us a little bit about some of the things that you've done, and let's lead into what we're currently here to talk about.
Yeah. So because I had never created a comic, I read X-Men, and and I grew up on those Saturday morning cartoons, so I was always into comics. And when I went to go start writing my first book, I was told, "Hey, you should start small. Like make a 6-page, make an 8-page, make a 9-page. Just keep going up." And that's what all these we have these like serialized lesser known comics, number 1 through 7, and then we got these other like they're kind of like sneak preview comics of the lesser known comics universe that I've been building. And then this Kickstarter is for the first full-length issue that I've done. So the first like 22 pager. So it takes place in the same universe, but this one is samurai versus witches in 1980s Japan.
Sounds so awesome, dude.
Yeah. And I'm glad you think so. The reason we totally did that one, I was trying to find, here it is. So I was working on, with the same illustrator, Franco Luna, we made this lesser known comics number 3. And in that story, there was just like a total side character. There was these witches, and they're showing up to drop off a magical artifact with the main character of this book.
Give me 1 second. Let me, I'm going to supersize you real quick.
Oh, cool. Yeah, and our illustrator was like, "Hey, what's the deal with these witches? They're from Japan." And he's like, "What's the backstory on them?" And even though I didn't have a full like comic book script for their backstory, I'd written out like
the other one.
No worries.
It's always that one straggler ambulance, you know what I mean? There you get the heavy hitters, and then there's always the one that has to like, "Oh, you're in the middle of an interview, let me." So we'll edit that out post-production, but go ahead.
Yeah, so Franco, he just kept hitting me up. He was like, "What's the deal with these witches from Japan?" And I told them, "Oh yeah, they're being chased by this lineage of samurai." And he just came back and he was like, "Why aren't we making that book? Because I want to make that book." What am I gonna say? Like, he's a great illustrator. We're good buddies now, and I've always given the illustrators I work with like as much creative freedom as possible. Like, to many extent, on like a 2-page spread, I'll tell them what the first panel is and the last panel, and they get a lot of like pretty much whole middle of the page to do whatever they want. Yeah, Franco just started crushing it. He started making concept art, making badass people and characters. And even to the point where when I got the pages back for Either Them or Us issue 1, he had changed the ending. And he was like, Mark, hear me out. And I was like, I'm looking at it. He's like, it's better this way. And I'm like, yeah, it is way better this way, And I think it just goes to that fact that, having somebody with so much like competence as a visual storyteller, and then also like confidence in our relationship and friendship to be like, yeah, I'm going to change all this and Mark's going to like it,
We have George from The Adventures of Wonder Duck over on YouTube stopping in to say we all need to pledge to this Kickstarter and subscribe to this channel. What is up, fellas? Welcome, George. How are you doing today, man? Actually, my very first interview right there. So the man that started it all.
Thank you. Yeah, that's cool.
So, man, hold on. There must be like Armageddon happening outside. This never happens during it.
I'm worried for you.
Text
me a sign of life after this.
Like, are there samurais and like witches like battling outside? Like, so after giving us a little bit of a breakdown, how was it like writing the script for a full book? You've worked on small projects here and there, but actually doing the full project. How was that for you as the writer?
Luckily, I had some help. My friend Gabby Rincon, she did some editing with me, and what that is just sitting in a taco shop together and just like her like poking holes in the story and being like, "This is dumb and this is stupid. You didn't do your research here." So, because I've made the mistake, most of the universe has witchcraft in it, and I thought I knew some things about witchcraft until I started writing about it, and people will let you know, and they're like, "Hey, well, what about this, and this?" You're like, "Ooh, we got some more research to do." So same
and it's
thing.
Such a whole other world, right? like once you get into it, it's like a whole iceberg.
Yeah, and same thing with Japan. I actually.
One second, we're back.
So I was international relations major in college, so I do know a lot about the world, at least I was going to school for it, but still in any culture, right, there's so much to do digging. So looking at Japanese culture both in the 1800s and in the 1980s, it's there's so much to capture. So it can be frustrating to feel like you're not doing like the period or the culture justice, but at the same time you're just trying to appreciate, I guess, like the learning journey, So
do you think the international studies like led you to kind of like venture towards Japan? Like, did that have any influence?
What really, I think growing up in California, so in California, it's got so many, roots tied to China and Japan and South America, Central America. And then I spent some time traveling in South America. And what was really striking was like the Japanese influences in places like Peru, and so when I was putting the characters in the world together, I kind of hugged that Pacific Rim of like, okay, these cultures are pretty intertwined, and there's some pretty insane stuff just in real history. So, I do take some liberties and make fictitious places and stuff like that, but a lot of it's rooted in that those interactions between those cultures. And yeah, even though this issue's in Japan, we're going to jump around some places, Korea, China, the Philippines, just because those are places that I've personally been to and I just found intriguing.
No, that is really cool. And, you were talking about how intricate some of this stuff is. I mean, I just found out the other day, like with katanas, you have to like lay them on the inner bend. You can't like lay them on the blade, like in the case. You have to do it because it'll eventually dull. Like, so things like that. And like, whether you have the handle to the left or right, like indicates you're ready for war. So like, there's so much like that even just goes into the way you present the katana. Like, what all did you like put into like in terms of research, like to make sure you were like doing this justice, like with everything, like in terms of like the armor and everything? Like, did you leave most of that to your artist or?
Yeah, so a good artist does so much reference work and they come back with so many things, and those are the ones that typically ask me like the hardest questions. But then at the same point, we are transporting them to 1980s Japan. So what is a samurai lineage going to look like when they enter, like, kind of modern times? I know that, like, the 80s are like 40 years ago at this point, but at that point, do they got walkie-talkies and helicopters and this other things, what would they be wearing? How much modern weaponry would they be using? So we've so some of that, we took a lot of pressure off, because now we can kind of play with it at this point, so we kind of decided that we had basically like a group of henchmen, your typical, like, Cobra Commando looking henchmen, and then you have like basically like a squad leader that's actually, like, got the samurai garb and stuff like that, but they're modernized and stuff like that. Looks,
oh, that's so awesome. We have George over
you
on.
can't get facial expressions with that samurai mask on it.
We have George over on YouTube. Got to go set up for my show, but awesome interview as always. Good luck with the bookmark and keep killing it, Cody. George, I appreciate you stopping by. Thank you for your kind words. I think right now would be a perfect time. Let's go ahead and pull up the Kickstarter and kind of go through some of those tiers and see what the hype's all about. Right off the rip, congratulations on funding as well, man. Currently at $1,610 of a $1,500 goal with 57 backers and 11 days to go. That is awesome.
Thank you. Yeah, that actually happened this morning. It was a good way to start my Wednesday. Yeah, especially this month with so many amazing campaigns that are going on, because I know that the backer dollars are spread, pretty thin, especially this month. Got a shout out to Dan Price, Bigfoot Knows Karate, campaigns like that are going on right now. But yeah, we try to go as moderate as possible, to not to make these huge funding goals and stuff like that. One, just so we can get over that finish line and kind of start focusing on the next release. And but yeah, this has been a really cool campaign. It's kind of been the first time that I've been able to focus solely on my book during a campaign, and there's almost more pressure and less pressure. More pressure because I want to belong with these great creators that I work with, and then like less pressure in the fact that if I let anyone down, it's just myself, so it's been fun.
So real quick, everyone watching right there is the link to check this out with us. If you're unable to back it, simply sharing it on Facebook and Twitter helps a bunch. Word of mouth is 100% free, and getting as many eyes in on this as possible will help just as much as you backing as well. So we are looking at Either Them or Us issue 1, Samurai versus Witches in 1980s Japan. First full-length book written by Mark Bernal, founder of Lesser Known Comics. Dude, it is depressing to think that it's been 40 years. Like, I was born in 1989, so when you're like, it's 40 years, I'm like, God, what is happening?
Yeah. That's one of the funnest part is like just making the little like promo videos and things like that. Like, I don't know, sometimes like I'll spend way too much on those promo, like way too much time working on that. My wife's like, are you making videos now or are you making comics? Like,
let me be. So we are looking at Either Them or Us issue 1, the first full-length comic that takes place in 1980s Japan, where a centuries-long feud rages between samurais and witches. If you like magic, martial arts, grappling hooks, and rad artwork, you'll definitely want to check out this comic. So here are some of these interiors, and man, this is gorgeous. I am loving the pencils and the art. This is all just like so gorgeous right now, man.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, Franco Luna, he's down there in Argentina, and same with the colorist he uses, a guy by the name of Nick Torres, and they just work together. And it's nice, especially because of the caliber Franco is, that he's finding his own colorist to work with, because I'd imagine he might be intimidating to work with, because I'm blown away any day that dude wants to do art for me.
And right here is a look at one of the variants as well.
Yeah, so that's by a guy by the name Reese Jenkins. He's out in New York. So the cool thing about him is, he's one of those dudes that have been hitting me up, DM all the time, and I've always wanted to do something with him. And when we released that, announced that this book was going to launch, he just made that. He made it and he sent it to me. And I was like, dude, can this be our variant cover? And he was like, yeah, absolutely. So in further talking with him, we did make a tier where he'll do, so the variant cover is available, but then also if people want a custom one-of-a-kind sketch cover done by Reese Jenkins, we print those on like They're like these. All white comics, and then he'll like hand draw, a one of a kind sketch on there, because he's based in New York, and it's easier to do that with somebody based in New York than Argentina. Because last time I sent some to Argentina, I think it cost like $95. So.
So this is already completely illustrated, and it's already being prepped for print with the next issue mostly completed as well. Additionally, we have multiple releases coming in 2023 that will further build out the lesser-known universe and take these characters through awesome stories. So these characters are going to branch out into other books as well?
Yeah, I don't know what the language barrier is. There's some cursing in our...
You can cuss.
Yeah, so we got two other. I think it's we're all gonna die and calm the fuck down are the other two books. Those are working titles. Either Them or Us was actually called Kaijo City up until the last second. Kaijo City is the fictitious city. It's like Tokyo if it was run by witches. But that was the name of the book up until the last second. Yeah, so. Within all these story arcs, we have we'll have concurrent series that will affect each other. So maybe the antagonist in this will be a protagonist in another series.
Okay.
And just to kind of give as many perspectives as possible. And for me, like growing up with X-Men, right? Like Magneto being such like a wonderful and complex villain, like I've always wanted to create heroes and villains that weren't so cut and dry. Not necessarily making them like an anti-hero where it's like, oh, this is clearly a bad guy, but you're supposed to root for them. But somebody where, readers hopefully one day can be like, yeah, this person's not a good guy. This person's a villain. That villain's not a villain. They're actually the good guy this whole time.
So let's go ahead and check out some of these rewards as well. It looks like for $5 or more, you can get either Them or Us digital PDF. This is going to be 22 pages. At $10 or more, you can get a physical copy as well. So an outstanding price right there, I think, for a 22-page comic. Also $10 or more, you can get the blank sketch cover as well. So if you want to try your hand at drawing up a cover of your own, get that tier for $10. You have the 18 or more, so that's going to be the extended story. Give us a little bit about this.
Yeah, so that includes, available on Global Comics, you can get Lesser Known Comics number 3, which happens right after the events of issue number 1 of Either Them or Us. So it does jump around in the timeline. But if you want to get a physical copy of it as well, then you can throw this into the cart as well and get both comics.
So $2 2 books for $18. That's not too bad at all. At 20 or more, you're going to get the Jenkins variant. So that's going to be this one.
Yeah, we're only going to make 25 of those available for the Kickstarter. And other than that, there's going to be a small stash for myself and a small stash for Reese and his family. But we're limiting that to a run of just 25. So there's some exclusivity on that.
And we have the Lesser Known Universe collection at 52 or more. So how many books is going to be included with this?
Gosh, I know. I should know this, but we just got so many books in this summer. So in the Lesser Known Universe, there should be 7 additional books.
Wow.
So that may not take place directly tied to the story arc of Either Them or Us, but it takes place in the same universe so that these characters will eventually start to run into each other or have to deal with the fallout of what's happening in each other's books.
And then go ahead.
I was gonna say, yeah, so that one is the one that's exclusively the Lesser Known Universe stuff. That's the stuff mostly that I've been writing those characters, versus I think the next one is the LKC starter pack, and that kind of just gives you the issue 0 or issue 1 of everybody else. So ranging from Tank McGregor, which is just such an amazing graphic novel that's in there, to Tights is available in there as well. The first issue of Tights, now that Tights is part of the Lesser Known catalog.
That's such a fun book too. I just love the whole premise and concept of it.
Yeah, I'm really excited for that. And I'm also like, I had a realization the other day that I was like, oh, I get to be a part of Tights 3, like the release of Tights 3, and like that just like kind of like made my day,
Mm-hmm.
like, because he joined in the middle of the launch of Tights 2, and just being like, I just had a realization. I was like, fuck yeah.
Yeah, it's gonna be
Be
fucking
part of
awesome,
that
dude. So 75 or more, we're gonna get either them or us custom sketch cover. So that's gonna be the reward tier where you get the blank sketch by Reese Jenkins as well.
Yeah.
And then go ahead.
I was just gonna say, yeah, we'll be taking the books up to him in New York, and he'll be doing them and signing them, and making all that stuff rad for everybody.
And then we have 112, the full lesser known comics catalog. So there is so many books in this. Holy crap. How many pages would you guess is this tier?
Well, it's over 140 because there's a graphic novel and a 22 pager. So other than that, I think personally on my account, I think I've done about 100 pages myself.
Mm-hmm.
So you're probably over the 220 page mark easily.
Wow.
Because Yuriko is pretty long. Both Tights books are in there. So I should start being more handy with these. The other problem is that when we have books leave the catalog,
mm-hmm.
Like Digital Lizards of Doom, that was 3 graphic novels that that went on to a bigger publisher. So it's so I always have to like keep up with like,
I gotcha,
or not,
So that is all of the tiers. So let's go ahead and we'll begin wrapping things up. For anyone that might be on the fence about backing this awesome book, what would you like to say to them directly to kind of help push them over that fence?
I think it's a fun universe to get in on, and everything about these comics, has been top notch, because I think the illustrators that we brought in are top notch. So to my own detriment, I'll put myself through the ringer when it comes to editing. We're very particular about great lettering, great design, and things
mm-hmm.
like that. So really, we poured everything we could into this book, and we're really proud of it. And I think it's just fun for anybody who's into magic, who's into helicopters with giant grappling hooks shooting through skyscraper windows and samurais jumping out. If that sounds vaguely interesting to you, like this is your book, and I think for a lot of comic book readers it is.
No, that is so awesome, man. I appreciate you stopping by this new comic book day. Once again, everybody, be sure to check out this link. And if you can't back it, simply sharing it on Facebook and Twitter is 100% free, and word of mouth helps get as many eyes on this as possible. So, Mark, before we wrap things up completely, I always love finishing on a strong note, and that is asking for a little bit of advice for anyone out there who might be new to the industry. So for anyone who might just be getting started and having trouble getting going, what type of advice would you offer them to help them get motivated just to start?
Yeah, I think the biggest thing is build your team. You brought up, and we talked about a couple creators, Chris Weigand. We talked about Drew from Halloween Man. We talked about Dan Price. Dan Price is a great example. That dude pulled me aside at Houston Comic Palooza, gave me the most positive kick in the butt, where he was like, Mark, what are you doing? You got to do more conventions. He's like, you got a cool thing, and we need to be doing this on the road together, because you're going to look back in 10 years. You're either going to be stoked that you did it, or you're going to be bummed that you didn't, And so surrounding yourself with people like that who will give you, a positive kick in the butt. We'll always, if you're having a hard time making friends in the scene, I would encourage you, DM us on Twitter or Instagram. We will introduce you to some friendly people who are like the highest quality caliber of indie comic creators. It doesn't matter where you start. It's just a matter that you keep going.
That is awesome. And I really think that's, you got to keep at it. You have to keep doing it. And, the more passion and heart you put into it, the more you're going to get out of it.
Yeah, totally. Everything you pour into this indie comics scene, they are going to give you back tenfold. It's, but you got to put yourself out there, and you got to make friends, and you got to be supportive of your fellow creators.
No, absolutely. So everyone, once again, New Comic Book Day, be sure to check this awesome book out. Right there is the link once again. Mark, thank you so much for swinging by, breaking this down, and just coming on and chopping it up with me, man. This was an awesome chat.
Yeah, thank you so much, Cody. I can't wait to do it again, man.
Yeah, absolutely. Everyone watching, I hope you have an awesome Wednesday, but most importantly, guys, keep it geekly.